Hey there, my weird and wonderful voids. How you doing today? Today, I wanted to try something a little bit different. I wanted to try a new style and actually a complete different style swaps of three very well-known characters that all have similarities. More specifically, similar animals. With this challenge, I really wanted to see how far I could exercise my artistic muscles by swapping characters and artistic styles with three distinctly different shows: Loony Tunes, BeastStars, and Zootopia. In this first part of this three-part series, I'm going to be focusing specifically on Loony Tunes. I wanted to choose these specifically because they all have the same animals, basically, such as Bugs Bunny and Wile E. Coyote, Legoshi, Haru, Nicholas Wilde, Judy Hopps. Obviously, two of these pairings obviously go together very easily with BeastStars and Zootopia, but I needed some kind of canine for Looney Tunes to be included to make this a little bit easier on myself. And you can't have four characters and not have some of the same components with it. That'd be way too hard. I'm not that crazy. So let's get started. Looney Tunes. The first major distinction with Looney Tunes is obviously they're not wearing clothes, they're a lot more cartoony in the old American style, and I really wanted to base this off something we all know specifically, which is some of the original designs of Looney Tunes. The more exaggerated ears and puffy cheeks of Bugs Bunny, and the really sharp angles of Wile E. Coyote, where in modern renditions, some of the components got swapped out. I figured if I went with a more traditional / original take on this, if I needed to get references from other species or other genders, I'd have a lot easier of a time to find references. And the first thing, as soon as I started drawing, I realized just how freaking weird Bugs Bunny is. His body proportions are so much different than my own. And I really struggled a bit with that, especially with this arm, because I wanted to show a really great and strong silhouette. So starting with these bases, such as Bugs and Wile E. Coyote, I really wanted to stay as close to the original as I possibly can. I'm supposed to be learning this style and some of the fundamentals and basics with it, not adapting it. So again, the first thing I really truly noticed as soon as I start drawing was shapes. With anything I draw and anything you should draw, basic shapes are the fundamentals to start with. That's how you get your place holding, that's how you get your proportions. And while Bugs is very much round and circle-ish, Wile E was strangely extremely triangular and rectangular, actually, from the rectangle of the face and the chest cavity to even the feet, where compared to Bugs, his feet were a lot more triangular with really rounded tips compared to Wile E's. Wile E also had, as much as main components were squares, he had a lot more angular ears than I would have expected for Bugs. Now, taking some of these basics, I really had to now use it on my own. I had to adapt what I just replicated. So a lot of these bunnies are going to look similar. And looking through some of the old episodes and old references of bunnies from Looney Tunes, such as Lola and stuff like that, the main component, most of them are really the same. Except in today's rendition, she has shorts, which, go girl. So I really wanted to stay, again, in that old traditional style where a lot of the animals back then did not wear clothes, did not have any special things, because coming from an animator standpoint, they need to be drawn again and again and again, cohesively through different people and different styles, and the more simple of a style and simple of a design, not only is it cheaper to animate, but it'll also be cheaper to and easier to replicate 1,000 times. So I had to find a new way on how to represent these characters because clothes and the accessories were so important to each character. Haru with her school uniform and Judy Hopps with her police uniform. And while both Nicholas Wilde and Legoshi had very casual clothes, I can't put those on here. So silhouettes became suddenly very, very important with this. Haru has always been a bit of a flirt, and she was the main romantic interest for the majority of the first season of the show. I love this show, by the way. And so I wanted to really make her open and flirty with that body language. While Legoshi, every frame and every scene he is in, he was always hunched off, very closed body type, and that communication of body language is so important, especially with Looney Tunes, because we don't have accessories, we don't have any extra information. We need to make an assumption within seconds on who these characters are and what they do. Nicholas Wilde was very different because he was a canine, but he's not nearly close enough to be a coyote or a wolf. So I did a quick search on some of the foxes in the old style, and it was a very, very different outcome than I had expected. They're a lot more triangular, which all foxes are. However, his face went all the way up to his ears and even beyond his cheek into his neck with his cheek fluff. And I really wanted to bring that sly cliche in with this, with Nick specifically. With Judy, I did not want to make her, as much as I did give her a feminine body type, because she is feminine, I wanted to give her a lot stronger of a pose and confidence of expression and taken up a lot more space than than Haru. Going into the specifics, that's when you get to have fun with the second outline. You really get to see more of the personality shine, and even though it's not the exact, part of this experiment is to see how well and how quickly can I adapt to a different style if I was to be put on a show. And I'm quite proud with how much I was able to accomplish in such short of a time. I was able to also recognize some new abilities of mine, such as doing hands on the fly. If you told me last year I could do hands on the fly, I'd laugh. But I really just wanted to challenge myself with this. Another big component with specifically Looney Tunes for characters, identities, and stuff like that, since they can't go all out with character design, is colors. And it was very interesting to see how much these colors actually became similar from not only different medias, from the 3D of both Haru and Zootopia and the 2D, but also different eras. The Looney Tunes was made a long time ago, with a very different source value and with a very different understanding of art than we currently have today. And the fact that some of the same elements were brought over, such as the gray bunny, and it was very cool to see how much we may have grown in design. There's still some key things we keep with it. And granted, some of the key things could just genuinely be the characteristics of the animal, such as the button nose, the long ears, and such like that. And other parts could just be genuinely character choices, such as small hands, or proper 3-digited fingers, or straight up paws, human feet, actual feet, and even to the extent of the clothing, where BeastStars had a lot more intricate and modern and very specific style and detail of clothing. With Zootopia, it was a lot more visually appealing with colors, uniforms, and very simple patterns. And it was very interesting also to compare these different characters past just the artistic qualities, the personalities. Bugs Bunny is inherently, and as we all know, confident, sassy, bit of an asshole, but with charm. Meanwhile, with Haru, she's definitely got some spunk and personality, but nowhere nearly as abrasive as Bugs Bunny. And then Judy Hopps was a lot more of a confident character, but still with some people-pleasing qualities and very much a go-getter with a different kind of determination compared to the previous two rabbits. Bunnies? Two of them are bunnies. And then the personalities with Wiley, and Wiley is overly confident, a bit egotistical, the engineer who fails at all. And then Legoshi, which is like a very big character as shown in the show, is always quiet, soft-spoken, hunched in on himself, and I really wanted to show as much of these personalities as I can. And in the first part of Zootopia, all we know of Nicholas Wilde is just a sly fox until he gets more of an in-depth character arc. And even with this new character arc, we see he's got a heart, he's got his own experiences and traumas, but that doesn't change who he is as a character or as a person just because you know someone else's traumas. Which, again, was very interesting to go in depth with. Not right now, because we are talking about Looney Tunes specifically. With the second pass, now that I have the actual proportions down, the pose, I got to have a little bit more fun with it. And as I was starting to get more familiar, I was discovering I was getting a lot faster. So these simple designs do genuinely work with streamlining the flow. I also knew with Looney Tunes, I did not have to worry nearly as much of line weight as I normally do. Line weight is a thin line towards the light source and a thick line typically towards the shadows. It creates more of a dramatic flare. With this, I didn't have to worry about it. Granted, my pen still tapered off, but it wasn't nearly to such an extreme taper as when I normally work, and I got to really just streamline and enjoy the work instead of being very overly cautious on what line is going where. And I got to make this actually really kind of fun to do the second pass, to just enjoy where the line takes me, put a little bit extra character and life in the lines and the poses and the eyes even. I also didn't have to worry about, I don't know what the proper word is. Typically when two lines meet, I either add a small curved shadow just to show impact or layering. And again, I did not have to do that because everything was all in one layer. The dimension is supposed to be flat. So I got to really just have that and have fun with just seeing how fast I could do this and how little time it was really taking to finish this aspect of the drawing. And every now and then I'll stop, and you'll probably notice where I will stop, double check, make sure I got all the lines. And normally when my designs and drawings are so incredibly detailed, I need a thorough look over, otherwise I risk losing a big line or aspect with it. I didn't have to worry as much with this, and it was awesome, actually. It's going to be an interesting battle for these other two styles because they are so not like my style. When I first started to learn about lines and stuff way back in high school, I was trying to practice Looney Tunes. And the ears were the easiest part because the ears were one of the first things I took and contributed and made my own with knowing how my hand worked and how to make curves more easily with myself. And with how my hand moved. And it's important to understand how your body moves so that way you don't fight yourself as you're trying to complete something. It was also interesting to note that there was, I think maybe in my very quick research, there was only one or two types of foxes that I could really pinpoint that was Looney Tunes style. So the fact that it was so rare and there wasn't a official character with Looney Tunes, I know there could have been a new one in recent years and I could have been out of the loop. But the fact there wasn't, I really had a lot of great creative liberty with Nick's design with the Looney Tunes. I kept the cliche triangle face, the curved snout, but I also put in some attributes from the previous canines that I had, such as no gloves on them. I don't know if gloves was specifically for Bunny or specifically for herbivores, even though I know the real reason with gloves with especially some of the older characters was specifically a old animation technique to save money with ink. If the hands were white and the feet were white, you would be able to save a lot more ink by just having them as gloves. And especially with white gloves, and so compared to any other type of glove, fingers are such a uniquely human thing that it's really hard to get messy and muddled up and really lose the readability with that. So another main reason why the old animations had gloves was so that you could easily see where each finger was, and it was easier on the artist to in between and work with fingers. They could easily see through each frame compared to having them colored, especially if you're inking in the old style where they actually inked by hand on cell shade sheets, compared to where our cell shaded was specifically digitally. They all had to do it on hand. So, fun trivia fact for you. I understand they are not all purplish blue. I have a reason for this. This is part of my streamline for working a little bit faster and a little bit easier by blocking in all of the silhouettes and using a clipping layer and coloring really quickly with that. With me, I just found that was very easy for me to do, and it was a lot easier than trying to do everything by hand and color in as they are, especially with a lighter color on a light background, and you try to do something and oops, you miss a spot, or you went past the lines without meaning to, and now you have to backspace or go through your layers to figure out which layer specifically that happened. So I block in the characters and color over either in one layer or multiple layers to get the color I actually need. That way I could just use the square or blocking brush, or even just a huge paintbrush, and just go over and fine tune after the base color is down. And that was just me as an artist the better way. Obviously, I'm not going to do this traditionally in the Loony Tunes style because I do not feel like doing this on pen and paper, re-editing that, putting it into the software, making sure it's all the right light when, light disappears really quickly in the evening on Canada. So by blocking it in, I was able to really punch through this process very, very quickly. As I said before, silhouettes were very important with showing a character's personality, but so is color too. Normally, I'd have a lot more fun with color theory with these guys, but since they're already established characters, I just had to re-implement the colors that were established with their official designs. Such as Haru, as much as she is actual pure white, you can't put pure white because any pure color, especially white or black, if you put it on top of each other with no different shade or no different gradient or with no kind of differentiation, it really, really blocks out and it looks very, very flat. So with Haru, I specifically went for more of a peachy white, a peachy gray. That way the white parts did pop all the more. And even though her eyes were pink, I wanted to make sure her ears had pink to liberate with that, or pinkish eyeshadow. So with their eyeshadows, especially the feminine, with Haru and Judy Hopps, I had their actual eye color as the eyeshadow, as a way to associate with that. Here we go, the final design. It was very fun and intriguing to see how much I had to go out of my comfort zone to really honor this style and learn something new about this and the characters with it. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you guys stay tuned as part 2 and 3 will be out as soon as I can, because life happens, but it'll be out as soon as I can. Stay warm out there and stay safe and sane. Bye! Do 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 do.